When you're making a pojagi window hanging, what size should you make it? That's what I'm going to be talking about today. Welcome to Epida Studio. My name is Elizabeth and I help you make beautiful things with quilting, pojagi, and embroidery. So if you've seen my channel or my website, you've probably seen those window hangings that look like stained glass. And I have lots of tutorials that explain how to make them, and I have patterns and online courses that will step you through the process. But the first question that you need to think about when you're going to make one of those window hangings is, what size do I want to make? And that is kind of a personal choice of what size you want, but I have some tips and some things that you can think about that will help you to make that decision. So the first thing that you need to do when you want to make a window hanging for a specific window is you need to measure that window. And use one of these kind of measuring tapes, not like a sewing measuring tape, because this one will give you it'll be easier to use and give you more accurate results. But measure the size of your window. And I usually measure inside the frame. And the reason why you want to measure your window is because there's so many differences in windows. It's not like when you make a quilt and there are a few different standard mattress sizes. There's a twin, queen, whatever size mattress you have. There's a few different standards, and so you can easily look up or estimate how big you want your quilt to be based on how you want it to fit on the bed. Windows are so customized that even within your house, probably your windows are all different sizes. So you do want to measure it. And also I find that people often can't estimate how large their window is. They underestimate or they overestimate. And so just take a couple minutes, get a measuring tape and measure it so that you know what your starting point is. And so then when you know what your starting point is, then you have a few other things to consider before deciding on what size you want it to be. So the first thing you need to consider is, what is the purpose of this window hanging? So sometimes when you want something hanging in your window, you want it to be for privacy. If your window looks right onto the street or right into your neighbor's house, then you do want something that will block the view so that other people can't look right into your house. So if you need privacy, then that's going to have certain considerations on your window hanging. Another reason why people might want something to hang in their window is because certain times of day there's glare from the sun. So you just want it to cut the glare or block a little bit of the sunlight, because certain angles at times of the day it's shining right in your eyes. And so that's another reason people might want something hanging in their window. And then the last reason why people might want something hanging in their window is just because it looks pretty and they want a nice piece of color there, or they want something to match their decor in the rest of their house. So those are the three main reasons why people would want something hanging in the window. So think about which one of those you are interested in and what is more important to you, and that will help you when you're figuring out what size you need. Now, the second thing you need to think about is, how are you going to hang this? And there are a few different ways you can hang window hangings. So for example, you can have a curtain rod mounted right on the wall, kind of at the top of the window, or you can have a tension rod that goes right in the window frame, and then you can hang something so it's in the window, but you can still see the frame around it. Or you can even, with small window hangings, you can even just put suction cups right on the window and hang things that way. I've seen people temporarily just kind of tape something up in the window. That works too. There are a lot of other ways you can jerry rig it, but those are the main ways that people would permanently hang something in their window. And so once you've decided how you want to hang it in the window, then that will also affect what size you want your piece to be. And then the last thing that you want to think about is, do you want your piece hung flat in the window so it's flat and smooth, or do you want it to be gathered and bunched up? Now, most of the pictures that I have on my website, are of my window hangings hanging flat. And I usually take pictures like that because then you can clearly see the patchwork designs and clearly see the stained glass look, but it still looks beautiful even if they are gathered together. I should probably take more pictures of window hangings as they're gathered so you can see what it looks like, because I do sometimes hang pieces like that for my own use. And so there's not a right way and a wrong way to hang a window hanging. It's whatever you like. But depending on if you wanted to hang flat or you wanted to gathered, that will affect the size that you want to make it. So once you've thought about those three things, then you can calculate what size you want your window to hang to be. So for example, if I had a window that was 36 inches wide and 48 inches tall, and I wanted to hang it on a permanent hanging rod, and I wanted it for privacy, then for privacy, I know that the window hanging has to be at least as big as the window, and probably bigger. If it's on a hanging rod, it will have to be bigger. So then I would have to add at least 6 inches on both the width and the height, maybe more depending on your situation. So it would have to be at least 42 inches by 54 inches, and you might want it even bigger than that. Now, what if I wanted it on the same thing, same size window on hanging rod, but I wanted it a little bit gathered? Well, a good way to start thinking about that is take the width and multiply it by 1.5, and that's a good starting point. You might want it even wider than that, but that's a good place to start. So if I wanted that, then I would be looking at a square that is 54 inches square. And that would give me something that would be for privacy. It would cover the whole window and it would be gathered on the curtain rod. Now in that same size window, what if I wanted it for privacy, but I didn't need privacy in the full window? I just wanted the bottom part of the window covered, and the top I could let some of the sunlight in. Then I could use a tension rod right in the window frame, and I could make a 36-inch square piece, so that would fit in the bottom of the window and still leave a little bit of light at the top for the sunlight to come in directly. So that's a difference between a 36-inch square and a 54-inch square. That's a pretty significant difference, but both of those pieces would work for that window depending on what my purpose was. Now, what if I just wanted to hang something pretty as a decoration? I have a selection of patterns that are for the 4 seasons. There's a sunshine, a flower, a leaf, and a snowflake, and those are all 24 inches square. And that size looks really nice in a window that's 36 inches by 48 inches. So you can just get a 24-inch square and hang that in the window, and that looks really nice. There's a bit of window exposed all the way around it to let in light, but that size also really works. So you could have 54-inch, 36-inch, 24-inch, and you could go even smaller. I have some free tutorials for little like 12-inch or smaller window hangings. You could get one of those, hang it on a suction cup, and just have that in the window, kind of like a sun catcher. And so you can see the varieties that you can have all in this one size window, depending on what your purpose is of hanging a window hanging. So think about what your purpose is of the window hanging, and also remember that when you hang something, you're not committed to that forever. That's one of the beauties of this, is how easy it is to change out depending on the seasons, or if you redecorate, or if you just want a different color. There's a lot of reasons why you might want to switch it up, and it's really easy to do that. So the last thing I want you to think about is something that I call the stained glass window light principle. And this wasn't something that was discovered by physicists, and I'm not going to get all sciencey on you, but it's just something that I have observed, and I don't know all the reasons behind it. If you are a biophysicist, I'm sure that you can evaluate based on how our eyes interpret different things, but this is what that is. If you have a window and you have a window hanging and it covers the whole thing, then that window hanging does look a little bit darker. If you have some of the window exposed so that sunlight is also coming through directly, so for example, in our example previous, if you had the window and you had just the window hanging on the bottom or the smaller one in the window, then those smaller ones are going to appear brighter and more vibrant. I don't know why that is, but that's just what I have observed. So if you have a window hanging, you can try this for yourself. Put it in a window where it covers the whole window, and then put it in a window where it only covers part of the window, and you can see for yourself that in part of the window it does look more bright and vibrant. I don't know why, that's just how our eyes view that. And so keep that in mind if you really want to accentuate like the bright fabrics and the especially the batiks that have a great glow in the window, then you might want to make it a little bit smaller than the window so that you can have a bit of sunlight coming through. So that's just something else that you can think about. So have fun making your own window hangings and make the size that you want for your window. And to see how to make that, I have a lot of tutorials, patterns, online courses. You can see all that at my website, epidastudio.com.